Before there was time. Before there was anything, there was nothing. And after there was nothing, a light spawned, bright against the harsh darkness, consuming the world until it cracked and shattered into millions and billions of stars cutting through the sheet of space. When humans finally found themselves underneath, they thought they saw a cloth. The feeling of being trapped terrestrially has never gone away. Ever since there were humans to look upon the stars, there were those who dreamed of falling into the sky, finding their lost in the unknown. Ives and Icarus, the princes of the sky. Have you ever stood at the edge of a cliff? Hauntedly, you feel someone grabbing at your feet, like the monster underneath your bed at 13, calling you to join them. Obsessed with the thoughts, you quickly shield yourself from the idea, the experience, and pull yourself away from the edge, the end, the void. The calling of the void. We all get that feeling. To fly into the unknown. It's because our body is warning us of losing control, of going beyond. My sister, well, she listened. She listened and she ventured forth to the calling of the void.
So, that was different. Welcome back. One sec. Welcome back to Alphabet Superset. My name is Jackson Bernard Pulane, and this is a project I'm doing for 26 weeks in which I write an original monologue and then record myself acting it. It was created by Campbell Walker. It's a project to get more people to create more art and put it out for everyone to see. This is week 3, C, Cosmic Dust. So it was different. This piece was different. It wasn't me standing in front of a camera acting with no cuts for the minute monologue. You know, it was a splicing together of poetic scenes to describe what I wrote. And I think I'm someone who learns from finding the extent to which I can play within a certain structure of rules. I've already created the structure of the 26 program of what I'm supposed to create. Now I'm playing around. I think I'm not going to stay here a lot. I think this was definitely somewhere to play for a little bit, but I think in the future I'll be doing stuff much more like the first monologue and the second monologue. Also, one of my previous teachers, Steve, once told me that the medium is much more important than its message. So I was playing with the medium. So the word this week was cosmic dust. How does it fit the monologue? Why does it make sense that I did what I did? How come I never say any of the words from the petition in my pieces? Lots of great questions. I can answer a few of those. One, cosmic dust is kind of the quintessential thing that Carl Sagan in his book Cosmos kind of focuses on. And if you don't know, my play is kind of based around that book as well as the second book. Mr. Sagan goes about describing life. He starts with cosmic dust. It's the particles after the Big Bang that kind of came together to create planets and stars and galaxies and nebulas. It's like the quintessential thing that all of us are made of. If you remember someone talking about stardust, how we're all made of stardust, that's what they're talking about. So it makes sense that the most fundamental particle would be a word in which I start thinking about the fundamental language and illusion that I want to write for my play. You know, these monologues are preparation for writing a fuller play. So thinking about the final play, and thinking about this word in specific, cosmic dust, being a quintessential part of space, I thought this would be a wonderful time for a character, the narrator, to create like a draft of a monologue for that character. Since we're talking about fundamental elements, I think a fundamental element of life is just suffering. So when we start talking about cosmic dust, when we start talking about living underneath the sky, you start thinking about why. What's life for? What's the existential reason for why we're here? And the character goes about exploring that through the call to the void, which is the feeling of standing on a ledge and having that force of like, ooh, what if I fell? What if I jumped? How do you wrestle with that? What's it like leaning into that feeling? These are all things that Miles, the character, is dealing with. And the monologue specifically, since it's the draft of the beginning monologue for the play, is mainly supposed to provide interest for the rest of the play. So if you notice how the very end of the monologue talks about his sister, and the whole idea is like bringing about awareness of ideas and characters that are going to be further expanded on within the play. Woo! 3 good things about the writing. One, I enjoyed the allusions to artists. The quintessential fundamental artists in the project I want to write later on the play are Ives and Icarus. I think they're going to be wonderful allusions. I think they're going to be wonderful stories to tell within the story of the play. Two, if you look at the writing, if you check the monologue on my website at jacksonbernardplain.com, you'll see that the writing's a little bit different. It's structured a little bit different. It's a little bit more poetic, and that's a big change from previous monologues and how I really want to write the play. Three, I love the suspense at the end. We talked a little bit about it earlier, but it's just that idea of Rose and being like, well, I want to know what happens next. That's what writing should be, and I feel like I accomplished that in this monologue. One bad thing about the writing, I didn't feel like I was able to fit everything I wanted to fit. There's a lot more ideas I want to fit around the calling to the void, the idea of leaning into it opposed to not leaning into it. But I just feel like I had more to say and I wasn't able to fit it within the minute. Three good things about the acting. One, I enjoyed the creativity around the props. If you noticed, I was picking up the light. I was outside. I was trying to go about creating a more poetic lens to the acting. Two, I loved the diction in this monologue. I felt like there was a lot of creative imagery that went on when I would talk about the poet. I feel like I really leaned into the poetry this week, and I think the acting kind of came along with the diction. Three, I feel like so often when you're a narrator, you forget that you're a person, and this person is in the play. They're a fundamental being, and I think adding the relationship to his sister, having an emotional context to that, setting up the scene in a way that he's inspired, you really feel the person behind the narration. One bad thing, and it's not my fault necessarily, but it was raining all week, and I was trying to record this at the end of the week, and all there was like rain and rain and rain and rain and rain. One of the A shots of this monologue was me performing it on the roof, right? And I was unable to accomplish this shot, which makes it a lot less to critique on the acting side, just because there wasn't a lot of like a person saying this. It was more poetic. There was a lot more imagery. It was less more on the mouth, less on the whole face of being the person. That was something that suffered just because of the time and because of constraints of reality. The goal for the next monologue, and a little sneak peek into it, the word is dirt. Similarly to this monologue, where this was kind of an introduction into Miles, an introduction into the play, and served as kind of maybe like a draft of the opening monologue of the play, Cosmic Cliffs. I think dirt's going to be an opening monologue for the female in the play. I think it's going to be a view of life and a view of existential crisis through the poetry of dirt. I imagine this is not going to be as spliced together as this week's monologue, but I want it to be like a full body shot, maybe more theatrical, less self-tapey. And the goal is to capture the same suspense I captured in this monologue in the next one, but bring a lot more character into it, less narration. I don't want it to be a bunch of facts. I want it to be a bunch of emotional understandings, trying to capture that like quintessential 1 minute, like this is who the character is, this is their whole story within the first monologue. For her in Dirt's monologue, I think is the goal. I want to say thank you guys all for watching. This has been Jackson Bernard Pulane doing Alphabet Superset. This was the third video. I'll catch you next week for D, and make bad art. Everybody get out there and make bad art.